state.
Yeah, look, at the end of 2014, it was clear that there were huge pressures on the NHS budget. In government, our major focus was on getting more money for the NHS in the last year of the coalition, 2015. Simon Stevens, the chief executive of the NHS, then decided to go off and do his own piece of work, looking at how much the NHS needed over the next 5 years in this parliament, basically. He came up with a figure of about 30 billion that I think was about right. And he reckoned that half of that could be made in efficiency savings and that he needed the other 15 billion from the Treasury. The problem seems to be that when he then took that figure to the Conservatives in number 10, they said, you must be kidding, there's no way the Chancellor and the Prime Minister will sign up to that figure. You better get that figure down if you want it to be taken seriously. You better increase the efficiency savings. And he did that, reduced therefore the demand to 8 billion. We now therefore, as a consequence, have the NHS needing to make in this Parliament 3 times the rate of efficiency savings that it's made over the last 20, 30 years. I think that's undeliverable, and I think that those assumptions need to urgently be reviewed. Otherwise, we're going to see the NHS gradually decline in terms of its standards over the Parliament.
Well, this explains a lot, perhaps, but what you're saying, to be clear, is that Simon Stevens was strong-armed by the government to cut by half his estimate of what the NHS really needed, and that therefore this £8 billion figure, which we were all talking about at the time, I mean, I was interviewing George Osborne in that chair at great length about the 8 billion, the 8 billion, the 8 billion, but this is actually a fantasy figure plucked from the air.
I am saying that, and frankly, Simon did not a bad job for the NHS by changing the terms of the debate in late 2014, by getting eventually all the political parties to commit to this extra 8 billion. But I think he had to make compromises, and as a consequence, it would put into the public domain the sense that 8 billion is what the NHS needs. Actually, it needs more than that if service standards are to be maintained.
And all the way through the campaign, we were being told by government ministers, this is the NHS's own figure, this 8 billion. It's not our figure, it's the NHS's figure. We are going to give the NHS all it wants. How would you characterise that?
Well, I think once that figure had been put by the NHS, after all, this was unusual. This was the NHS asking for money, not a government document. Once the NHS had said that was the figure they wanted, the inclination was for all of the parties to sign up to that and no more. Our own spokesman, Norman Lamb, actually had concerns about this, wrote to the other political parties in January 2015 and suggested what I think we now need, which is a proper independent review of NHS finances in the future, not prejudiced by government pressure on the head of the NHS, so that we actually understand what the real efficiency savings could be.
But Simon Stevens is one of the most respected public figures, outside government itself in the country, respected by all the political parties. And you were saying he caved, he gave in. That's quite a serious thing to say about somebody.
What I'm saying is that he put on the agenda. He put on the agenda the need to increase the NHS budget at a time when all of the political parties were only signed up to real protection of the budget. I think sometimes when you're in the political space, people end up making compromises in order to move things on. I'm not criticising Simon. I think he was lent on. But I think actually one of the things I can do through this book, which isn't simply backward-looking, but which is forward-looking, is expose this so that we can have a proper debate about what NHS budgets ought to be over the next few years.